Welcome to The Big Break Show, a podcast where we discuss short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, life, mindset, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Rafa, Loza, and Jesse Vasquez.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Big Break Show. And as always, Mr. Jesse Vasquez is here with me. What's up, brother?
What is up, dude? Guess what episode we're on?
I have no idea. I don't know. 55.
I don't even know if we can actually say what episode we're on because Rafa and I were like too wrapped up in this conversation we just had with Mr. Auston Cook, who is fantastic. And you guys, this is another guy that Rafa's worked on a deal with, this hotel, right, Rafa?
Yeah. Dude, this guy's a genius. When I first talked to him, I was like, dude, he was scheduled months ago, but then I ended up getting sick, and then we just like schedule conflicts. He finally came on. I'm excited to have him on. Dude, massive action taker, this guy, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, he went from selling solar to developing over probably 20 doors in his own backyard, buying land, and you guys will hear the whole story. It's really cool. So if you're interested in like learning about how to, he probably 10x'd his money, dude, over the last 3 years. Like I didn't even
more than that. For sure.
I didn't even ask him like completely that, but he definitely probably did. And literally just by buying properties that are dilapidated, is that the right word? Is that a normal word to use?
I don't know.
Is that a word? If it's not a word, please let me know. But it's a freaking word, dude. But he was able to buy properties and just build on them, tear them down and build on them. And that's something that I always wanted to get into. And I think a lot of real estate investors starting off, they always have that grand vision of like, yeah, I want to develop at some point. And this is just a cool story about somebody that, is a math genius, graduated from school and college in math, with the math degree, and then gets really good at sales and then builds his career both on the sales and the math side. So it's kind of cool to hear, man, him come full circle in such a short amount of time. Yeah,
it's nuts. To go from teaching people how to climb to becoming a full-time real estate developer in just 2 short years is insane. But I'm telling you, man, massive action taker. You guys are really going to enjoy this episode. Let us know if you like it. Anybody else that you guys want us to bring on or anybody you want us to talk to, we'll reach out to them so we can give you guys more content and give you guys more people to learn from. Other than that, hopefully you enjoy the show and we love you all. Hey guys, Rafa here. A lot of you guys have been asking me if I have a course, if I teach, if I mentor my short-term rental business, and the answer is I do actually. I just recently released my very first course. It has about 120 videos. If you're part of the monthly membership, we are adding 2 new videos a month in current issues or projects that I'm working on within the short-term rental business, and we do 1 monthly call live where you have access to me to ask me all the questions you want. So if you're interested in joining the course or if you want any more info, click the link below. It is application only. We only open it to a certain amount of students every month because we want people who are serious, who really want to be a part of this, who actually want to take their short-term rental business and grow it, or are starting from scratch and want to learn how to actually acquire properties doing rental arbitrage. If that's you, if you're serious and you really want to do this, click the link below, schedule a call with me or my team, and we'll get you going. Now back to the show. Auston, what's up, brother? Thanks for being on the show, man. Really excited to have you on.
Yeah, super excited to be here, guys.
Yeah, cool. So I want everybody to know first, before we get into the conversation, who you are. So we always start off every episode with who you are, what's your background, tell us a story, how you got into real estate, your entrepreneurship journey, like just little Auston to new Auston.
Yeah, 100%. So essentially, I graduated from college 2018. Wasn't really cut out for college. I ended up graduating though. Went to University of Michigan. Have a degree in mathematics and earth and environmental science. Had no idea what I wanted to do with it. But I knew that I loved climbing while I was in college. So the day I graduated, I actually jumped in my truck and I went out west and I became a climbing guide. So I guided people in the mountains for the better part of a year, ended up falling, breaking my foot, having to come back home. I was dead broke because at the time, I was living out of my car, just taking people up in the mountains, doing what I loved. And I had to come back have rehab for a few months while my foot healed. Obviously you can't guide people in the mountains with a broken foot. So I was living in my dad's basement, had no money. And I was just like, well, what am I going to do for 3 months? I can't climb. So I was like, I don't really want to go get a job like doing mathematics for a company or something, what my degree's in. I'm like, so I might as well just find a sales job. Something where I can get in, make a few bucks of commission, and get out. So that was my plan. My plan was to basically, during rehab for 3 months, get a sales job, and then, go back, live in my car, and climb. So I got a job selling solar panels. And very quickly, I became the number one solar panel salesman at the company within about 2 months. And I realized very quickly that everyone was asking me the same question. They're like, Austin, how is this $30,000 solar panel system going to affect my homeowner's insurance and what I'm going to pay every month? And I didn't want to tell them I know nothing about homeowner's insurance. I live in my dad's basement. I've never owned a thing in my life. So, I got this question multiple times. So I went and I looked it up. And I realized that Michigan has one of the highest insurance rates in the country because of our no-fault auto insurance. It's a thing we have with the state legislation. And it basically what people are doing is they're bundling their home and auto together. So they're just looking at a monthly insurance price. And actually, the solar panel system isn't really changing their insurance price at all. But when I got this question over and over, I started ringing bells in my head. Oh my God, all these people are really concerned about their price of their homeowner's insurance. I was like, what if I came here with a lower homeowner's insurance price plus sold them solar panels? So I went and got licensed with the state of Michigan to sell insurance, got sponsored through Allstate, and then I would come. So when it was in-person solar panel sales. So there's like a cold call team that would set up. I would go in and sell the solar panels. So I would come in with, my presentation to sell our solar panels plus a quote with insurance. So now I'm not only getting my solar panel sale, I'm getting my insurance sale if my price was lower, because I realized the insurance sale is super easy. I just have to beat the price. And then everyone already knows Allstate, so they trust it. So I was like, boom, boom, double dip on sales. So I used basically the marketing from solar panel company to get me in the door, sell solar panels and sell insurance. Well, I quickly learned that, the solar panel thing isn't scalable. The most sales I can make in a day were 3 because I had to go in person. Well, with the insurance, I realized it was a much more scalable method because I didn't have to be in person. All I had to do was send them a quote. And if they liked it, I would bind the quote. So I actually ended up, after about a month of doing both, I stopped and I went full-time in the insurance sales. So I started just doing insurance full-time, and this is where I really got accustomed with cold calling. So I started using a triple line dialer, started cold calling a bunch of people for the insurance sales, and did pretty well. I started building relationships with a couple auto dealers. So basically saying, when you're ready to sell a car, here you go. I'm going to write your insurance policy. Started going with a couple real estate brokerages. When you're ready to sell a house, here you go. I'm your guy for that insurance policy. So I realized really quickly that a lot of these auto dealers, they're really flaky. They would fall through. I'd have to scramble to write a policy, would never go through. But I realized with these real estate guys that, they would need about 30 days. So I'd have all the time in the world to write the policy for their insurance for the house. And the sale would almost always go through. Well, I caught myself looking at a settlement statement one time, and I realized that this realtor is making $10,000 on the sale of this house. As the insurance agent for writing the new homeowner's policy on the house, I was only making $100. So all these things started going off in my head. I'm like, holy shit, this realtor's making $10,000 and I'm only making $100. I'm in the wrong business. So really quickly, I was at Allstate then for maybe 3 months. So this is about 6 months after my foot injury now. I started realizing that I'm liking the sales. This is actually more fun than taking people up in the mountains. And this is where the sales journey into real estate really started when I saw that settlement statement. So around this time, I was supposed to go back and jump in my car and guide people, but instead I made the decision to give real estate a try. So I went to my dad. I should kind of jump back a second. My dad's been a real estate broker in the state of Michigan for about 45 years. And he's no longer active. He's been inactive for maybe 20 years, but he still holds his brokerage license. So I asked him, I brought the settlement statement. I was like, Dad, is this for real? Are these realtors really making $10,000 a sale? He's like, yeah, they are. So I was like, holy smokes, how do I get in on this? He's like, well, go get your real estate license. So I went and got my real estate license. And from there, I didn't know what to do. So I asked his advice again. I said, well, what do I do now? I got my license. He said, you go in the legal newspaper and you see who's going in the foreclosure and you go and you knock on their door and you say that you can list their house. So I did just that. I realized that, this is 2020, or at the time it was 2019. And he's giving me advice from 1977. So going to the legal newspaper and door knocking. There's more efficient ways to do it these days, but I didn't know. So I tried it. And on my very first day with my real estate license, I knock on a lady's door that was going into foreclosure. She starts crying. She pulls me into the house, and basically that was my first listing. I got a first listing right there on the first day, and then so from there. That's how I really got into real estate, and that's how I got into everything that I'm into now. That story goes a little bit longer as to how I actually got into development, but I realize it's already taken quite a few minutes, so we can.
No, this is good. This is good because I like how you transition very smoothly. I mean, dude, you went from one thing, learned about it, found out about another thing, learned about it, went into it. A lot of people don't have that fortitude to like learn something new and be like, wow, this looks really good. I want to give it a shot. Most people are just like, well, this is my job. This is what I'm going to stick to forever. And then they don't bother to think that, hey, maybe there's a better opportunity. And you like took every single one. It was like, oh, I see this. This looks good. I'm going to try it. Oh, I see this. This looks good. I'm going to try it. I want you to go into how. Okay, so for everybody listening, I want them to know what you're doing now, because it's what I want to talk about during this episode. So let everybody know what you're doing now and how you got to that.
Yeah. So right now, one of my biggest things is I'm an infill developer. So I'm developing single family residential homes. And this is basically how I got right into it. And I've been doing it I've been in business for 3.5 years now. So, but not to jump back. So that lady, actually, that first listing, turned out that, the house was probably worth, if it was renovated, probably worth about $250K. Me, I've been around construction, a decent amount growing up. So I kind of knew that, this house maybe needed about $30,000 worth of work to get it to that $250K. So we listed it at 200. Well, the day after I list it, we have an offer come in for 180,000. So the lady's like, I'll take it. And I was like, whoa, wait, you're going to take this for 180? So now all of a sudden more light bulbs are going off in my head. And I'm thinking, okay, so this lady's going to take an offer for 180, needs 30,000 worth of work. It's worth 250. What if I could somehow buy this thing? And then I could renovate it and I could sell it. So, that's exactly what happened. I ended up purchasing this house. And I ended up, with the idea of renovating it. So my dad has been a developer. Well, he started in the early 80s. So about, better time of 40 years or so, been a real estate developer. And then, so, he saw the house, the double wide, and he said, well, instead of, actually renovating this, he's like, there's a lot of new construction in the area. He's like, have you thought about that? And I was like, oh, no, I haven't given that any thought. So he's like, well, why don't you go down to our township and figure out how many frontage feet you need to build a house here and how many frontage feet you have. So I went down to the township and I figured it out that you need 100 frontage feet to build a house here. 50 frontage feet to build a house here, and I have 100 feet. So now light bulbs started going off in my head. I'm thinking, oh, shoot, I only need 50 feet, but I get 100. So I went and I asked my dad, does this mean I can build 2 houses? He's like, that's exactly what that means. I was like, well, fuck, I don't know how to build a house. So then my dad was like, well, that's no problem. He's like, if you're really serious about it, I can help you and I can show you. So, because my dad, he's been developing and building for about 40 years. I was like, you'll show me how to do that? And I was like, well, I don't have the funds to build a house either. Like, this is a couple $100,000. And he's like, well, here's what we'll do. He's like, basically, we're going to give you a loan for the one of the lots. So we'll give you a loan for one of the 2 houses. I'm not going to give you a loan for both. You have to figure it out. But I'll loan you to build that first house, and I'll teach you how to build it on that first house. And what you do with it is up to you. I was like, okay, I'm in. So he gave me a loan to build this first house. And basically, this was July of 2019. Basically, it all happened like within the first month of me getting licensed. Well, actually, the first week of me getting licensed. And we completed the house in June of 2020. So it took me the better part of a year, basically 11 months, to split this lot, build this house, and get everything going. And this is probably the hardest year of my life because in this time frame, I'm living in my dad's basement. I am trying to stay afloat. I really wanted to get into house flipping. I really wanted to get into other aspects of real estate, being, a landlord and everything. And I didn't have any money or resources or skills to do it. All I had was this one double lot that I was building, and I made every mistake in the book building this first house, like every mistake. And it was a nightmare. And during that time I was door knocking because that's what worked. So I was door knocking and I was cold calling basically every day for 11 months, trying to get flips and listings and everything under the sun. And I didn't get a single deal for 11 months. And I tried every single day. So it was really demoralizing. And actually, right before this house finished, I pretty much gave up on it. I was like, I don't know what to do. This isn't working. I have this house almost completed now. It's been a year. I've almost been in real estate for a year, and I have no other deals. Like, this is just crazy. And so then I was just going to see what happened. I put this house on the market for sale because I completed it. 3 weeks goes by, nothing, no offers. So I've been prospecting and door knocking for a whole year, and I have nothing to show from it except from day one where I got beginner's luck. And I put this house on the market 3 weeks, no offers. I'm like, fuck. I owe my dad all this money now. He gave me a loan on this house. I can't even sell it. So I actually broke down and I started crying. It was a Saturday night. I vividly remember because this is when I started believing in God again. So basically I fell to the ground. I started crying. I started praying to God, and I started, basically for guidance and to help me and figure out what's going on. And is this my path? It's been a really hard year. And then all of a sudden that Monday morning, after this happened on a Saturday night, I broke down and started crying for the first time ever. Or not crying but praying for the first time ever. Monday morning, I get 2 offers on this house. And they both are full price offers for this single house. So I was like, holy smokes. I just got 2 offers on this house. So actually what I did was I sold the house, and I sold the lot next door, the vacant lot, to the second buyer. I made him get a construction loan because I didn't have funding for the house. So he got a buyer's construction loan to fund me. So I got basically paid up front for the new construction home that I have not started yet. And then I got my payment for the one that I just completed. And basically I took that money. Well, I should back up a second. I took the money basically, and I ended up buying another house in the neighborhood down the street from these that I thought was a double lot. A guy ended up calling me right when these closed. And he's like, yeah, my mom went into a nursing home, and I saw what you're doing down the street. Are you buying houses still? I was like, yeah, I am. So all of a sudden, everything started changing for me. I went from having no deals for 11 months straight and trying every single day to now selling my empty lot plus my house that I just built. Now I'm getting a call from someone that wants to sell me another one. So I basically took the money that I got from this double lot, from the sale of the first one, and I bought this house cash. I realized quickly that the same strategy wasn't going to work because this wasn't a double lot. It was actually it was a 90-foot lot, not a 100-foot. And so what I did is I just did a refinance on it. I fixed it up, cashed out refi, and I pulled all my money out and used it as a rental. So now basically within 60 days of closing on these 2 houses, I now have a free and clear rental. Plus I still have, the $150,000 profit from my double lot. So I took that and I started hitting all the double lots in the neighborhood super hard. Ended up getting another one relatively quickly. I think it was in now September of 2020. And basically what I did is before I even tore the house down, I got it split with the township. I got 2 addresses created, and I sold both of these lots to end buyers that were now going to get the mortgage based off the single house that I already built. I used that as a model home. So now I took that 150 and I doubled it before I even built these houses because I got paid up front because I sold it on construction loans. Took that money, did it again. I bought another double lot, doubled it. And I did that 8 times within about a 12-month period. And that's how I went from basically failing and struggling, with no deals, only one deal in 11 months, to now having a free and clear rental house and 16 double lots within the next 12 months.
Okay. Yeah, dude, that's a lot. So you went into a lot of stuff. There's a lot of details in there that I kind of want to like unpack and unravel and go into more detail, because the first thing, I mean, it's kind of crazy how like everything kind of fell into place at that last minute, right? But I think my first question is actually, how do you figure out what's a double lot, like when you're buying these properties, number one, and then from there to wait a whole year for this one property to get built out, and then to want to do it again. And then on top of that, I want to talk about how you did the second lot, how you sold it as a construction loan and got paid up front. Like I don't think people really understand how that works either. So three things I want you to go into, if you can, please.
Yeah, so well, I learned the hard way because the second property I bought actually wasn't a double lot. It was a 90-foot lot, not a 100-foot lot. And the township is not, most townships are not going to give a variance for it. So what you have to do is you have to figure out, you can go actually to your local municipality, and you can go to the building department and see, based off that area, what the zoning is. So you can see how many road frontage feet you need in that area to build a new construction home. And then you can take that and you can look at your parcel of land and see how many road frontage feet you have. So for example, if you need, let's say you need 100 feet to build a house, okay? 100 road frontage feet, and your parcel has 360 road frontage feet. That means that you could build 3 houses there, because 100 goes into that 360 3 times.
Austin, hang on. What does road frontage mean? What does that mean?
So it means the feet that you have on a main road. So your house needs to be centered on a main road. Every lot that you build on needs to be centered off a main road, and that's your road frontage feet. So if you have 100 road frontage feet, that means you have 100 feet on the main road.
Got it.
So if you had, let's say in this example, you had 360 feet on a main road, that means that you could build 3 houses off of that road.
So, okay, so you're saying the entire lot from left to right has to be 100 feet on the main road.
Correct.
So like you can't just have a driveway going to a back lot and then build another house there. It has to be a certain amount of space.
So now that is where other rules come into play. But for a basic lot split, yes, you can do that. So what you're describing, there are things that we can do. We can now put in roads, private roads. But when we do a development with private roads, it now requires a lot of engineering. It now requires a planning process. It requires us to put in fire hydrants. It requires us to put in storm sewers. So the cost of development skyrockets.
And that's all on the developer's pocket.
100%. 100%. So what we're talking about is a pure lot split.
So you got to buy a house that's the lot line has to be vertical or horizontal in order for it to.
And no, it's just got to touch the main road. So the actual land just has to touch the main road. It doesn't matter which way it is, as long as it touches the main road.
If it's set back, then you can't. It's not going to be as easy. If it's like elongated, that's a better parcel that you want, right, Austin?
Yeah, correct. Elongated. It needs to be elongated because let's say the parcel is 1,000 feet deep, but it only has 100 foot of road frontage, but you need 100 foot of road frontage to build a house. Well, then you can only build one house there.
Yeah. So that's what I was getting at. So the 100 feet have to touch the main road.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter how many square footage the lot is. If only 90 touch the main road, you're only going to build one house. But even if it's 1,000 feet going in, there's no road going inwards, which means you only get to build one because the front road
correct
is what's being touched.
Unless we go through the planning process.
Correct. Unless you build a private road type of thing. So then what's the difference between building an ADU and doing this strategy?
So, when you have an ADU, like an auxiliary dwelling unit, so typically there's a lot of, let's say, restrictions in a lot of municipalities against those. So it really depends. You have to really look into the building code before you do something like that with an auxiliary dwelling unit. Because not all municipalities will allow that, and not all zoning will allow that. So what you can do is you can build your primary house with an ADU off the back. However, the chance of that being allowed in your zoning is pretty slim.
That's in California.
Yeah.
I mean, they allow it all over California. Like here, it's actually easier to build an ADU my property here than it is to split the lot. I couldn't split the lot; they wouldn't allow me.
Yeah, gotcha. See, it just depends on the municipalities wherever you're at.
Not only that, Austin, but you could split your lot line and sell they're two separate lot lines. right? You'd be able to sell that parcel, and then you'd be able to keep the main house. And I think that's what California just adopted. You can actually split the lot lines, build an ADU, sell it as its own parcel, and then build another property or even a duplex with the SB9 rule, and you can sell that too. So now you have 3 properties, 3 separate lot lines. But I got to look into that, Rafa. We'll have to look into that. What that split looks like, if it's 100
My
feet.
buddy just did it right now. He just did his first SB9. It's one of the first to get approved in California. Okay, so clearly it goes down to what the city allows you to do, whether you can split it. We now know that you need road frontage in order for it, so we're on the same page with that. So if you have the lot going backwards, it's not touching the main road, you can't split the lot. So now if you have a lot, just answer this really quickly. If you have a lot that goes 1,000 square footage inwards, but only 100 are touching the main road, then what do you do with that gigantic lot? Is it just a big backyard, or is there anything specific that you're doing with those, or do you have anything like that?
Yeah, so something like that. So what we'd actually do is we'd actually go through the platting process. We put a private road in. So we have to calculate up front to see how many lots we might be able to get and if it would make it worth all the time, effort, and money to actually make that development make sense. So when it's something like that, it's not so simple and straightforward. That's probably a 12 to 24 month process to get all the engineering done, to get all the approvals from the county and from the municipality, and to actually get it all zoned out and ready to go. Versus a simple lot split where we're not having to rezone anything. We're just literally splitting a parcel into multiple other parcels. That process, we can get that done in as little as a couple months.
So I guess in my case, the reason I asked this is because in California, there's no open lots, right? I mean, I'm assuming where you live, there's a bunch of open land between houses?
We're tearing houses down.
Oh, so you're tearing houses down.
Correct.
Oh.
Yeah, tear buildings down. So that double lot that I was talking about at the beginning, there was a little house on there. And basically we tear that house down, and now it sat in between these lots. And then we split that lots.
Gotcha. So it's basically a numbers game, right? It's all got to make sense within your spreadsheet to make sure that the numbers get, because the cost of demo is probably going to be expensive to demolish an entire house too, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the house. It varies greatly. So you have to take all that into account. When we're looking at a little house on a big piece of land, we have to take into account, where is the sewer? How deep is the sewer? How much is it going to cost for us to tap this? How much is it going to cost to bring electrical in? Are we going to have to get, gas lines brought in? All these different things. Utilities are always the biggest kind of bottleneck. So.
Wow. Okay, that's very cool. Okay, Jesse, you have any other questions on this? Because I want to go back to my initial 3 questions.
Yeah, I want to go from. I just have a quick question because I'm assuming like you learned math really early on in your life. Like I don't know math at all. You gave me like a question, I'll lose my mind. So like, did you know early on that you were going to be like, and this played a big part in your kind of where you're at now, like the whole math side of things?
No, I had no idea. So
no, but did you always love math, or was it just like when you were a kid and stuff? Because like
it's hard to say. I got a degree in math. I have a degree in mathematics and environmental science from the University of Michigan, and it's like I actually hated every second of it. I was just pretty good at it, so so I just did it. But I had no idea that I was going to play a big role in underwriting all these deals and putting deals together. I had no idea.
Yeah, the only reason why I was asking is most people that are mathematic like have personalities that are kind of like, they're not salesy type people. So like to have a math brain and have a sales mentality, like those two are like it's like a unique combination that you got there. I'm just saying this given from experience. Like I've had a ton of sales experience in my life, and usually like the math guys are on one side and then the sales guys are on the other side. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So it's funny. It's funny that you say that, Jesse, because this is why I want to ask this too, Auston, because you have a very unique set of skills, man, and it's kind of impressive to see and kind of hear from, because it goes back to that mentality that you have. Because not only are you good at, number one, analyzing and running numbers, you're like very resilient in terms of like things that you want to do and things that you get through. I mean, you take hardships on like it was nothing. You're like, cool, how do I solve this? How do I figure this out? And putting those two things together, like going from a sales job to doing development, like one step after the other, it's crazy how fast you went from teaching people how to climb to developing real estate just because you saw one thing and you decided to give it a shot. Again, like that's really impressive. And every time you run into a new problem, you're just like, cool, okay, no big deal. How do I solve this? How did that come about? Like I want to get into like the mind of it behind it.
Yeah, it's I don't know if there's a really straightforward answer. One thing kind of led to the next. I think my personality is always, I have a very gun-ho personality. It's kind of like an all or nothing type thing. So basically, when I'm in that all or nothing situation, I learn a lot in a short period of time, and I make a lot of advancements because nothing else matters. It's all in, ton of focus on that one thing, which is really good for developing all these skill sets, because you become a master at something in just a couple of years when you're obsessed with it. Then you get obsessed with the next thing, and you become a master at that, and that original mastery never really goes away. But as far as facing the adversity of all these different things, I struggled. It's not like I went through it and it was an easy thing. I just knew that I had already started to commit. Like, I started to commit to the real estate, and I wasn't going to give up. But around that 11 months, I almost did give up. Like, I fell to the ground, and I started praying to God. I was like, what am I doing? I just wasted a part of my year. I'm in debt. I just built this house. No one wants this house, all this stuff. And I was kind of a mess, I'm not going to lie. But then, just by the grace of God, I got pulled through, and I started selling, I started taking off, and my business just quadrupled literally, within a few months.
I just talked about this. I actually recorded a little video about it. I was reading Ray Dalio's principles, and one of his main principles is how when you go through like a hardship, right, and you reflect on it, it's how you grow, right? It's like a life lesson, sort of, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Anything in there specific that stands out to you the most in that time that you were going through where you really reflected on it, and because of it, it became a big learning lesson, and now you're just a different person because of it?
Yeah, one of my biggest reflections from it all is just that I consistently took action, and I was consistently taking action. I wasn't consistently getting results. And at the time, it was super demoralizing. But what I realized is that success is not linear. The growth is not linear. Just because I'm putting X amount of action in doesn't mean I'm going to get X amount of results. What I'm actually doing is I had slow compounding results that I couldn't see, that were not yet tangible. So every single day when I was out there cold calling and door knocking, my skills were as a marketer and as a salesperson were going up and up and up and up. And I just didn't recognize it. And I started building up this pipeline of people that actually were going to call me back later down the road. And I didn't recognize that. So all these things were happening in the background that I couldn't recognize. And then they just kind of exploded. And that's the biggest thing that I realized, is that success in any aspect is not linear. It's exponential. As long as you keep fueling that graph, as long as you keep fueling that fire and you keep doing what you got to do every single day, eventually it's going to explode. And that's kind of what happened. And I didn't recognize that at first, because I was expecting, I put this in, I get this out. I was expecting a linear growth. But what actually happened is that it was compounding. And maybe I'm just, I have enough grit, or I'm dumb enough or something to stick through for, 11 months without making any money. I don't know why I did it, but I'm happy I did. Because then all of a sudden this exponential growth just shot out. And I think that's one of the best things that I can tell other people, is that don't give up right away. It can take up to 11 months before you see any results. But if you keep working hard, you keep working consistently, and you keep working strategically every single day for like 11 months, it's going to blow up in your face, and you're going to be like, whoa, I just did that. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is I didn't recognize the fact that the success oftentimes in the growth is exponential. I was expecting it to be linear.
I love that. It's like that overnight success, right? Nobody knows the work that was put in prior to it, before you became an overnight success. I love that, man. Thanks for sharing that. So let's go back to, I guess, part 3 of my first initial 3 questions. We already did 1 and 2 here. I want to talk about that construction loan that you got paid up front, because that's a very unique thing that people can do because I know a lot of people. So if I'm understanding this correctly, the second lot from your initial split, you sold it to somebody with the house already on it, except you hadn't built the house yet. So now you got paid for the ARV value, right? The after construction value, after repair value, whatever it is, the after construction value. You got paid for it up front with the promise of you building on that lot for them. Am I understanding this correctly?
Correct. Yep.
So how does that work?
Yeah. So how that works is, essentially what you can do is, if you can convince your buyer that your product is going to be really good at the end product. So in this case, I showed them the house I already had built. And I said, I'm going to build this exact same thing what we need you to do though is to secure this loan, and to secure the house, you have to get you're going to have to get a mortgage on this, and you're going to have to get a construction loan. And then so essentially what that looked like on their end is them going and getting basically a mortgage on the lot, but it's not just for the lot value. It's for the value of the after repair or the after construction. So basically the homes are selling for about 500,000, and the lot's worth about 100,000 there. So it's them coming in, not only buying the lot for 100, but buying the whole thing for 500, even though it doesn't exist, with the promise that I build that thing within 12 months.
So essentially, they're buying a house that will be promised, and they're hiring you as a developer.
Pretty much, yep. They're hiring me to build it.
That's awesome. How do you find these people?
Yeah, so I put it on the MLS. So I put the original house on the MLS. I listed it, and then I got that's how I got the original 2 buyers from that. And then what I started doing is I started doing ghost listings on the MLS basically I'd get a double lot as soon as I'd get it under contract, I'd basically ghost list it, and I'd say new construction house to be developed, looking for basically buyers that are willing to wait the time period. And then I would basically I'd write up the contract saying this is for whatever address that the township determines it's going to be. So we wouldn't even have an address or anything yet, and we'd sell these houses. We get them under contract.
Wow.
And so I basically sell 2 lots for lots that didn't even exist yet, just under the premise that it's contingent, upon the township granting me the splits and the permits. So if it didn't fall through, we'd have to give them everything back.
And so let me ask you a question then, if you don't mind going. I want to go into the numbers of this. You sold this house, this non-existent house prior to it. How much did you sell it for? And how much was your profit on that house between the construction and what you sold it for?
Which one? Are you talking about
the first one? The very first one that you did?
Yeah, so essentially, what we did is as I said, we purchased the original lot, the double lot, for $180,000. But then I got my commission, my 6% commission off because I was the listing agent. So I got it for about $169,000. Took us with the demolition and all the fees and everything, it was about $11,000. So it puts us right back up to about $180,000 for 2 lots. So each lot we got for around $90,000. The first house there, so we built it, before a lot of the increase in construction pricing went up. So we got, what did we build that for? Maybe about $250,000 or so is what we had into the house at the end. So then we have about 90 for the lot. So maybe we're all in about 340, and we ended up selling that one, I think, for 460. So about 120K profit margin.
Wow.
A gross margin on that. And then we did that for the house next door as well. So then that's about there. I mean, they were pretty profitable deals up front. My first,
you're probably 4x because you turned it into two specific lots, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah, and now I never really gave it much thought, but now that I'm thinking about it, because of the question you asked earlier, what kind of held me together during this time, I think that was a huge factor. Just knowing that I had at least one big deal in the pipeline that I was working on, and even though I got rejected every single day for 11 months after that, just knowing that I had this one deal was enough to kind of get me through all that hardship. Just knowing that it is possible, and that's probably why I kept going so hard every day for 11 months, even though
at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Yeah, because I knew there was a light there. I knew we'd eventually sell this and something would happen.
Austin, how important was it to have your dad that was in development, like through this whole process?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll tell you, I would have flipped the house if it wasn't for him. There's no way I would have been developing right now. If it was not for his mentorship, I would have, just been a flipper, not a developer. So I would say it was 100% incremental.
Yeah. What your dad did in the 70s and 80s, it's probably still the same stuff. That's like real estate hasn't changed a lot at all. You know what I mean?
100%. So yeah, no, I'm eternally thankful for my dad giving me that loan, and I'm eternally thankful for him like teaching me how to build a house. If I didn't have either of those, I would not be where I am today. So, it's just everyone's dealt a hand, you just got to figure out how to play it right.
Right.
And I feel like in this situation, I played it perfectly. So
yeah,
that's kind of what I wanted to ask you too. So do you feel like, because most people, knowing the amount of time that was going to get put into this, they would have just flipped the house regardless, right? Do you feel like not knowing, and I guess like your ignorance of the time that it would take, right? Do you think that not knowing the amount of work that was going to be put into it also helped in terms of you saying, "Hey, I'm just going to give it a shot for demolition and split," or because you get what I'm saying? Like, had you known the amount of work that was going to get put into it or the amount of time you were going to take, would you have just flipped it in the beginning and said, "Hey, I need this cash flow up front and then I'll do it for the next one"? Or not knowing had a factor of, "Hey, screw it, I'm just going to tear it down and try it out because my dad says it's a good thing to do"? Like, that's kind of, does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think I would still do it because I am still doing it. I mean, if we look out the window here, let's see if you can see these across the street. So if we look across the street, I don't know if you can see those two houses right there.
I see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are houses I built. So yeah, so basically, I mean, in this house that I'm sitting in right now, I plan to tear down. I already have it split into two addresses, and I'm going to tear this house down that I'm in right now and build two here. So I would definitely say that knowing how much work it is, which I know how much work it is, I think it's well worth it to continue to do. Just because it's unique, because I drive through this neighborhood and we have 18 houses that I built in this single neighborhood, and I drive through and it's just an immense sense of joy and pride knowing that I brought these families into this neighborhood because of my vision. I saw an old dilapidated house there and I envisioned two beautiful colonials, and I'm like, well, there we go. That's my vision. And then I enacted it. And it's something that's really powerful. And no matter how much work it takes, and to make it happen, I think it's totally worth it to see when you see those families in there, and it's like, dang, I gave these guys a home. It's pretty neat, to just know that all these families are waking up in a Cook built home. So it's pretty cool.
Super awesome. How do you fund these deals now, Austin? Do you guys do your own? Do you have private money now? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, so I have a large private money network that I've created. Actually, just helped us on that hotel deal as well, tapping into some of those networks.
Helped drastically.
Yeah, so a lot of it is privately funded, and then too, I still use that buyer strategy. I have all the buyers get the end product. What I'm actually doing now is I'm building them for short-term rentals. So the ones I'm currently building, I have those privately funded. So I have them basically at private interest rates. And I'm actually not building those to sell. I'm building them to keep, just because they would make sense as short-term rentals. So I'm building actually 4 in a row down the street that are all going to be brand new construction short-term rentals.
That is awesome. Are you having to pivot now, like with anything, like, because I know that a lot of people that flipped before are starting to like look at alternative different revenue streams. They got people that got hard money loans 6 months ago are in a totally different situation right now. And there's a lot of doors that are tied up in these deals. So are you pivoting at any moment right now, like in any situation? It sounds like you're holding these properties right initially set to be sold, and now you guys are you're repositioning.
That's exactly it. So we're just, whatever the market does, we just have to react, right? Yeah. And that's all we could do. We can't really predict what's going to happen with the market. So I think as long as we keep taking massive, consistent action, and we keep getting new development deals under lockup, and we keep building more houses, we'll figure out the disposition later. So like on these ones, it doesn't make sense to sell now. With interest rates being so high, we're going to have a very small buyer pool in this area. So essentially, but we have a huge demand for short-term rentals in this area. So instead of, selling them to end buyers, what I actually did is I secured private mortgage to fund the construction. And then I'm just basically going to keep them as short-term rentals. So yeah, basically, it's shifting. Our strategy shifted dramatically over, I've only been in business 3.5 years, 2.5 really, since it really started. But my strategy is already completely shifted. Yeah. As far as all the flipping goes, we're not really flipping nearly as many houses now. Now we're wholesaling more. So,
yeah. No, I've talked about this before. There's so many people that I talk to that hold a bunch of doors. I mean, I was just on a meeting this week, and I was looking at somebody's like portfolio. It's massive, and I'm just thinking like, holy crap! And they're sitting on, millions of dollars of doors that they can't flip anymore because the market's changed like dramatically in the last 6 months, and they're sitting on hard money. And this is something that I saw like probably like 4 or 5 months ago, maybe even longer. And all of a sudden here it is now. And all these people that typically flipped are not now like, hey, I need to get into short-term rentals. Hey, I need to get into midterm rentals. that never did that before. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for people that are like Rafa and myself and you that see these opportunities, but you're actually taking action and figuring things out as you move along to continue to get that cash flow, because that flip side isn't going to be there. Not only that, but construction costs still aren't cheap, man. Like lumber's still pretty expensive. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. The cost to build is not going to get cheaper. It's going to be, I think it's going to be elevated forever now. We are seeing a little bit of a stabilization in lumber prices actually at the current moment. So lumber's doing okay right now, but it's nowhere near what it was. And it's never going to be what it was. And, so the cost to build a new construction isn't getting any cheaper. The cost to acquire new land isn't getting any cheaper. And the whole process with the municipalities of splitting these lots and getting it approved isn't getting any easier. And that's another huge reason as to why I'm now building to keep. I'm not really building to sell. We can cash flow in so many other ways. Let's preserve our wealth by just building these nice homes, and they're not going to have problems for 20, 30 years if we build them right. So.
Dude, the amount of money that you can make in real estate, there's so many different ways of doing things. And I think that some people get tied up in that. Like, I need to own this property, or I need to do this. Like, dude, there's like 50 freaking billion. There's literally too many ways to make money in real estate. I'm not even kidding. You don't have to own anything to do it. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. It is crazy. It is crazy. Making money is just part of the equation. Then also building that wealth and preserving what you have made is the whole second part of the equation. And that's, kind of where my bread and butter is actually in the investing side. I love the developing side. It's great for that. But my favorite thing is really just the investing side and how to create wealth, long-term wealth, pass wealth on, and actually how to, do a lot with taxes too. Because,
cost seg, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a lot of fun doing all that stuff. So.
Well, that's your math brain right there, dude. That's your
100%. I think that's why I like these houses too, building them to keep. So these are all A-class, and we're in A-class neighborhood. So for Southeast Michigan, a $500,000 house is quite a lot. The average price point is $300,000. So we're building $500,000 houses, and if we were to put them on the market as long-term rentals, they wouldn't cash flow. And even if that happens, I'm okay with it, because what I'm getting so much long-term appreciation on these things. Plus, we get all the tax write-offs from doing a cost segregation. So, it just makes sense to even hold them, even if they don't cash flow as rentals. I'd rather store my stuff in there. So,
Austin, did you to build in 2020 your first build and then build that same model now? What's the price difference?
Oh man, it's a lot. So I mean, we're probably up. So I would say in 2021 when we were building last year, I mean prices were up like 40%, 50%. But now they're dropped down a little bit. So we're probably at overall maybe 20% more.
20%
cost per square foot to build. So that's a big jump in a short period of time. So
yeah, and that can change your numbers like dramatically. Those
costs. It does. Yeah. No, we of those double lots that we sold last year, I ended up taking the heat on quite a few of those when we couldn't build them cheap enough. So I tried to time the lumber so when the lumber prices went down, I'd buy a ton of it. And I just had entire lots full of lumber that, my team and I were just wrapping in like tarps so it wouldn't rot over time.
Yeah.
It was crazy times, but, we made it through. So,
yeah. I'm telling you, dude, you're great at adapting, man. It's awesome. I love it. Like, your story's great. When you first told it to me, I was like, we got to talk about this. So I guess now the final piece here is in terms of like your development deals right now, like I know you're pivoting to holding now, right? Is that like what you're doing going forward, or do you have any other strategies in the works? Or because I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on how you did all the private money raising and build those relationships, but I kind of want to know where you're going with this now because you have so much stuff going on.
Yeah, so there's a few different avenues we're kind of going. As far as the development goes, right now in this neighborhood, I'm actually developing new architectural plans right now as we speak, for a cost-effective yet sophisticated-looking property, so that essentially we can short-term rent those. So, or even if we had to, long-term rent them. I don't know. There's no current zoning or municipality rules on short-term rentals, and if that changes, I don't want to get caught having 20 short-term rentals in the same neighborhood, and now all of a sudden they're outlawed. Yeah, so we're making them so that they can be used both ways, so that they'll at least still cash flow if it's a long-term rental. So that's really my development plan right now, is just build to keep. And what I'm, starting to get into, I'm starting to look at a few parcels of land that we're actually going to be able to do multifamily development. And that's kind of my goal right now, is transitioning from the single family side to that multifamily side, as far as the development goes. So that's kind of what I see as next for me in development. Kind of wrapping up what I'm doing in here and then transitioning towards that multifam.
Love it, man. I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Right.
I want to get in development, man. I think that's where I eventually want to get, like, my goal, is to get into development. I think that's kind of like a lot of people in real estate is like eventually development, but
Yeah, it is.
because that's where the money's at, right? But the hard thing is getting the money. Maybe that's the easy part. Like, tell us how you do that. I know we're getting to the top of the hour right now, but if you can give us like a quick, like, because I want to learn how to do this. And Rafa, I know Rafa's like around people that do this all the time. I'm not. So tell us like a little bit how that money raising kind of thing goes.
Yeah, it's interesting. So if you would have told me even 2.5 years ago, about the time when I finished that first new build, that, I'd be raising, millions of dollars to build houses and to, buy a hotel and all these things, people would be like, yeah, right. You keep dreaming, bro. But now 2.5 years later, I've actually become pretty good at it. So, the key really to raising money is, one, your credibility. You need to be on it. Like, you need to have a good reputation and you need to have a good track record. So building that credibility is huge. Two is that you have to be able to sell your idea. You have to be able to sell your belief. You have to be able to sell the deal to the investor. So you can't, it's not good enough to be credible. And then, you have to be able to sell your credibility to them and make them believe in you and your vision. If they don't believe in your vision, they're not going to put their money with you. And then, it comes down to the third part, is having that good deal. So you need to really have a good deal, and you need to structure it in a way that is favorable to that investor. Because I guarantee, if you structure any good deal right and you have good credibility and a good reputation, and you can sell this idea to the investor, if you can hit all three of those things, there's no reason why you're not going to raise the money for the deal. So all you got to be is, you got to be credible and reputable. You have to have a good deal, and you have to be able to sell the idea and the deal to the investor. And if you can do those three things, you can raise an infinite amount of money. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we raised $400,000 in a single morning for this hotel deal, and it's just by using those three principles.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's good to hear. And it was the money that you got, was it local or was it like all over the place?
Yeah, it's local. So yep, it's all guys that are in Southeast Michigan. And I think the thing about it is that so many people have limiting beliefs. They don't believe they can do it. They're like, why would this guy give me $100,000? Why would this guy give me $100,000? And that belief is kind of what's holding you back. I used to have these beliefs too, but right when you realize that, okay, I do have a good product, I have a good property, a good deal, I am a reputable person, I do have a track record. Now it just comes down to selling it. So you have to develop those sales and marketing skills, and you got to market and sell this deal to that person. And once you're able to hit all three of those, you hit the ground running. And private money raising, it's not easy. It's definitely not, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's simple. It's super simple, the process, but it's a simple concept, but a very a challenging sale. So
yeah, well, you got to be able to pitch, man. You got to be able to get in front of these guys. You have to have a good deck. Your numbers got to make sense.
Yeah, and that's just it. You got to be able to give them a good pitch. And what I've realized is that the same sale pitch and the same kind of marketing that we use to raise the money is the same sales and marketing skills that we use to put the deal together, same skills and marketing skills that we use to hire new employees and attract talent. It's the same skill set across the board. So once you really master that sales and marketing, I mean, you can apply that to every aspect of anything really, not just in real estate. So
Auston, you knock doors. That's the hardest freaking thing to ever do, and the humiliation that comes along with that. Once you do that enough times, like, dude, you can literally do anything. Like a Zoom call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I remember actually knocking some of those doors, and my heart would start shaking. I'd be shaking at the door, sweating, but you just got to push through. And I think that's the biggest thing is people don't have the grit to push through. But once you develop that grit and you're able to push through the adversity and you're able to push through your fears, because being afraid of that is normal. I mean, if you walk up to some stranger's door and you're like, trying to buy their house and you're not scared, you're not a little nervous, that's not normal. So being nervous is normal, and that's okay. And people don't realize that it's okay to be nervous and okay to be scared and okay to take the risk. And they just think, oh, I'm scared. I can't. I shouldn't do it. No, you should do it.
Austin, this reminds me when I was in sales in the healthcare industry. Like my job was to go into the hospitals and like talk to these clinicians and talk to these like discharge planners. And dude, I would pull into the driveway of a 300 bed hospital. I had an appointment to see somebody, and I would sit in the car for like 45 minutes trying to amp myself up to get in there to talk to them because I got denied the week before and the week before that and the week before that. And dude, I'd be sitting in the car just like, fuck, like I got to go in there and do this. And I eventually put headphones on, walked all the way in, put some pump up music, got to the door where I was at, took my headphones out, knocked, and then you just get in that mode again. And I think that's what you have to do to be successful in the space, man. You got to have that grit, and you got to have that like, this didn't work before, I'm going to try it again anyway. And it's just one of those things that you have to do. Like Pace Morby says something that I really like a lot. He says, like the wholesale and the real estate business is not built on like the hello. It's built on the hello again. It's that consistency of coming back in again, following up, following through, even if you're denied. Some people that you probably talked to that you're raising money from probably said no to you, but came around at a later point when you kind of reached back out, changed the deal. I mean, I'm just assuming that happened, but that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it is. And it's just that. It's just consistency. You have to be consistent. That's everything in this.
Yeah, man, I love it. Guys, we're getting to the very top of the hour here, so I want to go into our final two questions here that we ask everybody. So, Austin, being that this is the big break show, we want to know, what was your big break? Do you have a defining moment in your life where, because of this, you went from old Austin to new Austin?
Certainly. I think the defining moment was that morning when I got after having this house, this brand new house, I spent 11 months building. All of a sudden, I was at my wit's end. I broke down, had an emotional breakdown, cried, prayed to God. And that next morning, I get 2 full price offers on this house. That was my break. That was the break I needed. I was at wit's end. I couldn't do this business anymore. I broke down, and then I was just given that big break, and I got 2 full price offers. So that was certainly a defining moment in my career and in my faith as well. As just that moment when I didn't give up, and I pretty much persevered for 11 months without any deals. And that was just the exponential growth, and I didn't realize it was coming. So
that's awesome, man. Are you devout Christian now? Like, did you change like a lot about your life at that point, or are you still kind of?
Yeah. I started, I pray multiple times a day, and at the time I didn't ever pray. So now I'm very thankful, very humble because of it. Yeah. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I think that faith part is it's something that we all kind of need in a way, and it's like a balance of your body, whether you're like in a God or universe or Jesus or whatever it is that I think that's such an important piece. And like even as a kid, man, like I grew up in a super Catholic household, and that was so important for me to have. And even now as an adult, I think people kind of don't realize how much religion or even just having some kind of spirituality like really helps balance your life and your mental stability. It's such a huge factor to have something to kind of pray on, and to feel like somebody's listening. Like I said, whatever it is you believe in. But I too believe in the same concept that you are. Like God will give us things in certain ways at certain points for us to kind of see, and then that's up to us to define and change in our lives. So that's awesome to hear, man. Okay, so one of the other questions, an actionable step, Austin, that somebody could take, like literally after listening to this hour of you communicating, what's an actionable step somebody could do to literally make their life better or change or anything? Any suggestions you have?
You just need to not overcomplicate it. If you want to get into short-term rentals, if you want to get into real estate development, if you want to become a top listing agent, if you want to purchase a hotel, whatever it is you want to do, don't overcomplicate it. All you have to do is consistently take massive strategic action. If you consistently take massive strategic action, you're gonna succeed as long as you consistently do it, because consistently doing it means you don't quit. And if you can consistently take that massive strategic action day in and day out until it occurs, it is going to occur, and you're going to accomplish what you want. So many people get caught up in that analysis paralysis. They get caught up thinking, oh, well, I can't go knock on this door because what if they say this, 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 and this? I was going for a listing. I'd never even seen a listing paperwork in my life. You'll figure that out when it comes. The key is to just take action, and take action now. Don't wait and try to perfect something that doesn't need to be perfected yet. Just go and start going after it. That's the whole thing. So many people just don't take the action because they get caught up watching 1,000 YouTube videos and they think they're taking action, but in reality they're just procrastinating. So just take massive strategic action and do that consistently.
Dude, that's such a common thing. Right, Rafa? We hear that like out of 55 episodes, that's probably like, what would you say, Rafa? 53% or 95% of every successful person we've had on here says the same thing, man, in a different way.
Yeah. And that's literally it. I mean, just don't get stuck overthinking things. If you need to go raise $1 million, go do it. Just start making calls. It's not going to do it. You're not going to do it by watching YouTube videos or, just dreaming about it. Go take action. So that's it.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
You have to be consistent. So,
well, there it is, folks. Auston selling solar, selling insurance. You know what? Before I end this real quick, is life insurance full? Is that bullshit? Like, just tell us the truth right now.
So it depends. There's a lot of different policies, a lot of different ways to write it, especially when it comes to whole life policies. They can be really good. They can be. But for other people, they can make absolutely no sense. So, it just depends on the policy. It depends on what your goals are.
All right. I was hoping you were going to say, no, it's a waste of time and energy. Don't do it.
Yeah, no, it can definitely be worth it. So,
yeah. I always looked at it and like, I don't know about this, but yeah, there it is, folks. Auston says, if it's up to you, buy life insurance. If not, don't. But dude, now you own 18 doors. You get to drive by houses you built. Like, that's probably a pretty badass feeling. And now you guys are doing, Rafa, you are putting together this hotel deal, which is freaking fantastic. So, Auston, where can people find you, man?
You can find me on Instagram. So it's AustonCook.
And let me give your Instagram a shout out because your videos are getting really, really good, man. I enjoy watching your content.
Yeah, no, we've been trying. We've been working hard at, providing value to people and getting stuff every day. So
I'm following you right now, man.
There we go. Yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more, just find me on Instagram, shoot me a DM, and we'll get back to you usually within a day or two. So
awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate you for being here, man. It sounds like you have some really cool stuff going on. We're gonna have to have you on again when you guys get this hotel all done, Rafa. Everybody, your whole group.
Yeah, we should all three of us come on and do another episode.
No, 100%. And also, I just want to throw it out there too. If anyone is interested in contributing money to any of these deals, and you want to do that, get double-digit returns through an asset that's secured and insured, DM me on Instagram. So
there it is.
Love that.
Cool.
Awesome, bro.
Thanks for coming on, buddy. I appreciate you.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, take care, man.